comprehensive management in a heterogeneous cloud environment. And we've got two speakers. One, Soumya Upadhyaya, the product marketing manager HP, and Bhaskar, product manager HP. Small bio about Soumya. Soumya is a product marketing manager in HP in industry standard servers business unit and has 8 years of experience in the IT and telecom domains across product marketing, marketing consulting, and engineering functions. She holds an MBA from SP Jain Institute of Management and Research, Mumbai. And Bhaskar is the product manager for HP clustering in HP Unix and Linux and has been with HP for over 3 years. And he has done his MBA from Bradford University School of Management. I hand over the dais to them. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is mainly management from an enterprise perspective. Just a quick disclaimer, this is solely an opinion of just the authors here and not an opinion from HP. Okay? So let me take an example. So let's take a scenario of a bank, right? You have multiple customers. This bank has millions of users, about 1,000 odd transactions on a per second basis. You have customers who access from different types of mediums, through the mobile phones, ATMs, telephone, internet, and so on, right? And these customers require consistency of their information. They require their information to be accurate at all points of time. Whenever they need access to their information, they need it. When they need access to their money, they need it at that time. So at all points of time, consistency should be assured for these customers. So how does the IT for such a huge enterprise look like? So you have, the bank would have a primary site, with all their enterprise applications running, the databases, storage, etc., etc. They also have a secondary site, to manage redundancy, which is located 200 kilometers apart. It's like a hot redundancy. One thing goes down, the next thing comes up, right? The type of systems they're running are mission critical systems. They've invested, millions of dollars in bringing up this kind of a system. So why would an enterprise of this dimension want to go for a different setup, a cloud setup that we're going to talk about? So the first thing we talk about is choice, right? At the moment, the enterprise does not have choice on the type of systems they would want to deploy on. They always need to deploy on a mission critical system. So if they need to go to a cloud setup as well, they need a mission critical system to be available for them. Agility. Suppose, let's say they have a credit card division which wants to introduce some kind of new coupon-based system. How soon are they able to provide that to their customers? With their existing legacy system, it could take months or even a couple of months. Scalability. Not all software has the equal amount of scalability. Not hardware, or not all hardware has the equal amount of scalability as well. So how do I achieve that? Utilization. Typically, industry utilization is between 20 to 30% on systems. For such a enterprise which uses mission critical, the utilization would be much lower. Now, this bank would want to balance both utilization as well as high availability. So that's the requirement they're going to be looking at from a cloud setup as well. Interoperability. ISVs do not talk to each other. I think that's a known fact. Our earlier speaker also spoke, a couple of speakers have spoken about that as well. They want their IT to be simple and manageability. So you have different vendors for your hardware, for your software, for operating systems, for applications. How am I going to manage all of these? And the complexity just seems to go on increasing, right? If you move to a cloud, it just goes on increasing. So what are the considerations that such a huge enterprise would look at, right? For them, the user comes first. So the users here have limited tolerance for delay or error. They need instant gratification. When they need information, they need to have it. And their data integrity and security should be mandated, right? A CIO or CTO would be concerned about the existing investments, incremental costs, whether I have the necessary IT skills, customer SLAs, and data security. Then there is the IT manager who would be looking at, will my legacy applications work on a cloud setup as well? Would the business continuity and disaster recovery environment be similar to my existing legacy environment? And security as well. And then there is a regulatory compliance. You need to maintain a lot of historical data redundancy in such an enterprise, and again, data integrity and security. So to manage all of these, this guy is the guy who's going to get penalized, right? He's supposed to be managing all of these: policy, resource, security, billing, licensing, everything. So how do we make the task easier for him is what we're going to see in subsequent slides. So let's talk about why now is the right time for enterprises to move to the cloud. Based on some analyst reports, this is the current setup. So this is in percentages. Most of the infrastructure is on legacy infrastructure. There are a bunch of things which are on private cloud. It could be an on-premise private cloud or an off-premise private cloud. And then there is a little bit on the public cloud as well. Going down 2 to 3 years down the line, you would see that, again in percentages, the private cloud adoption has increased significantly, right? Whereas public cloud more or less remains the same for an enterprise setup. And the reasons why we see this are, enterprises are seeing an improved TCO. We saw in earlier sessions that, they see a reduced power consumption of about 70%. The number of servers they use reduces by almost 50–60%. So it gives an improved TCO. There is vendor maturity, right? Now you have different types of vendors who are able, for example, a VMware is able to has high availability solutions. You can migrate your VMs. There's a lot of maturity on that front as well, right? And then there are modular solutions. So you can use, for example, an HP Cloud System Matrix, right? And you can deploy multiple of those to go on building your cloud. So there are modular solutions which make it easier for an enterprise to adopt the cloud as well. So some more analyst statistics. Gartner's top 10 strategic technology for 2012 says that hybrid cloud computing as well as the capabilities to secure, manage, and govern the entire cloud spectrum will be a major focus of 2012, right? So this means that management is a concern that even analysts are seeing in the industry and something that needs to be addressed from an enterprise perspective. So how would a typical enterprise transition to a cloud, right? So there is a legacy infrastructure. This is how your current setup. You would move on to a on-premise private cloud setup. Then you would move to an off-premise private cloud, and or you might move to a public cloud, right? So this itself is complex. Now you add all these vendors. How are you going to manage all these? So your servers could be managed. You may have HP servers, Dell servers, IBM servers. How are you going to manage all three of them using a single interface? It's going to become more and more complex, right? So there are going to be multiple vendors, different management planes, public-private cloud combinations, and different versions of your hardware, software, and applications. So again, another statistic, for every dollar spent on PC hardware, organizations must spend at least $3 on managing that. This would become even higher, I believe, when you're moving to a cloud setup, right? Because you have so many things to manage at the same time. So hence, we believe that traditional management tools are not suited for dynamic cloud environments in the enterprise space. We already spoke about this. There is no single pane of view management for the end-to-end infrastructure, that is from the hardware to the application, as well as from the legacy infrastructure to the public cloud. There is no one single view. But there are some best-of-breed alternatives in the market. You can use plug and play. You can use one thing for managing all your hardware boxes, one thing for managing on your hypervisors, but it is not a holistic solution that is available yet. So this is what we believe are the key requirements for comprehensive management. So we believe that all the layers of the stack should be managed from the platform, the operating system or hypervisor, applications as well as services. And these are the key requirements which my colleague Bhaskar is going to cover in the next subsequent slides.
Thanks, Soumya. So the first, am I audible? Okay. The first tenet or the first bullet that I want to focus on is security and policy management. Now, why security? I have a legacy application that has been deployed and tested and that has been in operation for the last couple of decades. If I want to move to a cloud, I should be able to have the same freedom that I have in my legacy applications. Take the example that Soumya was talking about, an IT infrastructure in a bank. A bank can be using a mainframe or a enterprise Unix, which has much layers of security added to it, and if they are moving to a cloud-based solution, they need the same kind of security, as well as data integrity. If something goes wrong, I need the data to be loaded, recovered and loaded into the same fashion that I have. Not only that, we also need the VM level security, because the moment you are in a public cloud, it's prone for attacks and hacking. And then overlapping of management. Why do I say that? We have hardware. Imagine the same bank which has an hardware from IBM, HP and Dell. Each hardware servers have their own firmware versions, have their own firmware releases, let alone the switches and the LANs that comes along with it. And the firewall also needs to be overlapped. So there are different management planes as each of these pillars may offer. And security control also comes into this. The next big thing is policy management. You have access control, identity management, organization policies across hybrid environment. As an organization, there may be different BUs which may or may not need the same level of access. For example, a finance operation may need much higher access, whereas the HR operations may not need that critical access. And then compliance. If I am a telecom operator, I need to show my call data record at least regulatory in India for the next 8 years. That's a legal requirement. Same is the case with any policies that the organizations may develop. Same for compliance may need to be adopted to hosts that are being used in the cloud environment, as well as to the VMs. Okay, so now in order to do a management of a mission critical application, say for example, if the application has thousands of transactions per second, even a second of operations that is being lost, millions of dollars can be lost. So there are multiple areas of interest and the areas of coverage as well that needs to be taken into account. One is that application aware recovery. So what I mean by that is, within an organization, say for example in the bank itself, there can be various applications that are in different buckets that may not need the same level of application recovery. So these applications can be tiered, and that's what you see them in blue boxes over here, 1, 2, 3 and 4. And then DR policies across hypervisors. So there may be DR products that are offered by the virtualization vendor itself, but then the policies that are offered cannot travel across distances, cannot travel across continents. That's again a questionable point of view. And then rapid redeploy through templates. So if something goes wrong, or if I have to say for example deploy the entire stack over here into another if I have to deploy the entire stack over here into another site, can I redeploy the exact templates without having to go through few obstacles? Then I briefly touched upon DR policies across hypervisors. That could also lead into hot and cold swaps. What I mean by that is, hot meaning you have active-active configuration, and cold you have active-passive configuration. And then backup and restore ties along with the hot and cold swaps. So you may have a need to do automated recovery as well. So the application aware recovery ties along with the HA aware policy movement. So if in this case, if application 1 is having a tier 1 application, then that needs to be up and running all the time, all the year. And then cloud bursting. I think speakers who have spoken before us have covered enough about cloud bursting. Let me move on to that. The next one is resource management. on the left, you see activities that needs to be planned, that needs to be automated, that needs to be optimized. On the right, you see the characteristics that are expected out of these activities, say performance. I need the same level of performance even if it is a peak load, off load, or a weekend load, kind of a load. And then the capacity, I need my capacity to be available all the time, even if it is during the peak load itself. And finally, change. Every organization is prone to changes. So if you are changing something today, I should be able to come back 3 years down the line and say, okay, I made a change 3 years earlier, and this is the reason something has gone wrong. The activities and the characteristics need to be modular and need to be uniform across platform, hypervisor or operating system, applications and services. Now, the resource management I've spoken about where the tenets of activities and characteristics, but at this point of time there is no single pane of view of dashboard that gives you an entire end-to-end picture from the firmware, platform, hardware, application, services, planning, automation, optimization and performance. So we need a single pane of view of dashboard. And then version control and licensing, that also comes into the activities of an IT admin, because there is a constant crunch that the IT CAO or an IT manager may ask him to reduce on the licensing cost as well. Upgrades and patch management, that's one of the nightmares that IT admins usually run into, because if everything goes well, they have a good weekend. If even a small interruption occurs during the patch management or patch upgrade, then the entire weekend is gone for a toss, or that results to downtime. There are certain enterprises which cannot tolerate even a downtime of 4 hours per year actually. And then proactive management, it's not like IT admins want to work in a reactive environment, they want to have answers before the questions are being asked. So that not only involves alerting and forwarding, but analytics as well. Now what I mean by analytics is that, say for example, if a hypervisor or an operating system is providing heavy workload during certain operations of time, that gives rise to a pattern during the same week, during the same time, that can give you the same kind of peak workload, so you need to provision accordingly. And then reactive management. So now proactive management is for detecting the patterns, and then reactive management is basically for if something has gone wrong, I need to have a root cause analysis and a remediation plan as well. That's on the resource management. So now in the root cause and analysis remediation, so you see here, let me take the example of legacy infrastructure itself. So an IT admin trying to troubleshoot a problem over here will have nightmares going through the various log files in an enterprise environment where there are thousands of transactions and millions of dollars are at stake. To extend that a bit, if it's an on-premise private cloud, yeah, they can put up with it, and then they can manage it. But then off-premise private cloud, that again raises a question, because I don't know which hardware it is being deployed. I don't know who is the point of contact for me, whether they will have the same level of services that I have over here within my environment. And then public cloud, it's far-fetched in terms of achieving the maturity at this point of time, because it's very naive, and it is suited for lighter workloads in terms of web workloads, whereby I have 200 nodes or something, and if 10 nodes go down, my application can still manage. So now, having explained that, who wants what? That's usually a finger pointing session, whereby in the earlier bank, if they had a hardware from IBM and if they had storage from EMC, and making IBM and EMC talk together is a Herculean task, let alone the software talking to them. Getting them talk to on the same page, on the same issue, is never going to be a happy ending actually. And then for this, we need analytics to monitor entire infrastructure, offer proactive prediction and resolution, also to alert what is happening, if there are any thresholds that can be set, if thresholds are being breached, what can be done, and then identify, isolate offenders. Now, this comes into the picture especially when you are moving across the firewall into an off-premise private cloud and then the public cloud. And finally, with all this analytics, I should be able to offer a solution to the problem. Moving on, metering and billing. Now, if I'm a bank customer, this doesn't offer me much of my capabilities area of skill, because I know what exactly is being deployed because I have a legacy application. Now think about as if it were a broadband provider. I'm investing so much of millions of dollars or thousands of dollars in my server, and I want the cost to be passed on to my customers because I need to collect money from them. In that case, I need to exactly understand how much of my servers are being used by that application, and I can apportion the cost accordingly. So that's where we see allocated and claimed capacity, and then private cloud allocation of licenses, network, hardware, and software cost. So usually in a public cloud, the way it is being metered and billed is usage of network, percentage of CPU, and then data stored. Now everybody follows their own model. There is no separate standard, but it's their prerogative, and there is a necessity for a standard to be raised actually. And then recommendation based on usage analytics. As I said, analytics can play a huge role in terms of customers expanding from here. So the management ecosystem, on the left you have the legacy infrastructure, on the right you have the cloud infrastructure. So you see where you have the storage, you have a storage manager, and then you have hardware boxes, you have a server manager, and then on top of them you have a hypervisor or a OS who says, okay, I have a virtualization manager that I can cater the needs to for moving VM from one host to the other host, and then I have apps, and then I have an app manager. Even though I have an app manager, I need to make my app to talk to a database, so I have a deployment manager. On the right you have a cloud infrastructure. Likewise, you have a storage manager, server manager, virtualization, and deployment manager. Now what we are asking in for through this is that we need a common management across each layers in order to do standards. Although there have been attempts in the past to arrive at the standards, which I'll cover briefly in the next couple of slides, there has been much progress in terms of arriving at a common management. Not only that, we should be able to have plugins or APIs. Say for example, if I have a plugin that works on VMware vCenter, I should be able to use the same plugin on Microsoft System Center. Today I can't do that. I need to develop something different for VMware, something different for Microsoft System Hyper-V. So earlier I talked about some what you would call efforts in terms of arriving at standards. This doesn't include the OpenStack and CloudStack, but then there are other equal competitors like RightScale, nStratus, Cavo, and Scalar. If you see all of this, some of them outperforms few of the other competitors, and then none of them are in the space of mission critical computing, because if they were, then these management suites would have a upper hand already, and per the reports we don't think they are already there, and it's very naive. Finally, the conclusion what we arrive at is in terms of having a win-win situation for the customer as well as for the vendor is that it deploys easily using template based configuration. That's what everybody has been asking in for, and everybody is speaking about. And not only that, it monitors proactively, also reactively, provides root cause analysis, and provides me analytics as well. If I have these two, will I be satisfied? No, because if I'm moving to a cloud, my expectation goes up a step ahead. So that's where I see a requirement for automation in terms of standard operational procedures and change management. Because there are customers who deploy just IT admins to monitor their systems. So when something goes wrong and when the shift changes, they need to be able to find out what exactly changed. And not only that, as I said earlier, if you're a telecom operator, you need to adhere to industry and regulatory standards, organization policies within the organization. And finally, the big ask that collaborates with different ISVs and components. So the final says that a management solution that accommodates legacy infrastructure is secure, offers proactive monitoring, offering root cause analysis as appropriate in a heterogeneous environment, providing end-to-end management that can be a tipping point for cloud adoption and a moment of truth for customers to realize cloud efficiencies. Unless we have the last piece, it will be very difficult for the enterprise customers to move on to a cloud adoption, even though they may deploy in upcoming greenfield projects, but not every customer has the money to go in for greenfield projects. Okay, that concludes our presentation.
Soumya and Bhaskar, I request you to come on stage. Small token of appreciation from the Cloud Connect team.